angels waging war in the unseen realm. Global events fulfilling biblical prophecy. Eternal life. What lies beyond mortality? From analyzing the paranormal from a biblical worldview to the discussion of cutting-edge science and technology, conspiracy, discovery, special investigative reports. Unafraid to explore the challenging issues facing humanity. Welcome to another edition of Skywatch TV.
It is said that faith can move mountains, but in fact, you can also do it with technology. Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Joining us in studio today, the men who are responsible for the live streaming from the upcoming Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference, by which you can bring the mountain into your home. We're pleased and honored to welcome our good friends from Prophecy Watchers, Gary Stearman and Bob Ulrich. Gentlemen,
good to be
welcome.
Here. Wonderful to be here.
Thanks for making the trip up. Well, this is exciting. I know that the conference sold out as far as available spaces for people to actually view it on scene, but the live stream makes it available to people around the world. And that what we thought were just 32 presentations from the 24 plus speakers is actually more than what I thought before this morning.
Under promise and over deliver. This conference has been a wonderful experience. We actually started promoting it close to a year ago. Sold out the entire conference in probably less than 2 months. Mm-hmm. And July 15th through 17th, we're going to be at the Marriott Hotel in Colorado Springs with 1,000 excited Christians. And that gets us excited. We're going to have 26 speakers at the conference, which is virtually unheard of. It's not your father's prophecy conference. Mm-hmm. 26 speakers. And we're going to be live streaming 40 messages from the event, which is truly unheard of. Yeah. Most conferences, you get 10 messages, maybe 15 messages, 40 messages from virtually every speaker there, live streamed right into your family room.
So originally we had said 32, so this is a 25% increase. So again, under promise, over deliver. So 40 messages from the 25 speakers. How are you juggling the schedule to make that happen?
I posted a picture on Facebook that had about 12 legal pads on my kitchen table, and I shuffled them around like pieces of the puzzle, and people have no idea. Some people come on Thursday, some people don't show up till Sunday, some people are celebrating the Sabbath and don't speak during certain times. It's a logistical nightmare, but it's worked out great.
Well, you've shared the titles of the presentations with me, and this is the first time I've seen these titles, and some of these are really compelling. So in order to get viewers excited about what they can bring into their home through the live stream, let's talk about something. Gary, how about you? What is your presentation going to be about?
Well, my presentation is going to be about the last generation. You say, oh, well, I've heard about that before. What's new? Well, what's new is that the Bible uses that phrase precisely 6 times. And when you examine all 6 of them, they reveal a prophetic profile. It's very exciting.
It certainly seems the world in which we live that if this isn't the last generation, we better be really close because things are changing so rapidly. We're seeing a sea change in our culture, but also geopolitically with the rise of the Islamic State in the Middle East and the looming threat to Israel from Iran. Of course, Avi Lipkin will be there to address those particular issues. What are some of the messages, based on what you know, Bob, that intrigue you the most?
Well, I think the big thing about this conference is when you have 26 speakers, you cover a lot of different territory. We like to call it the bright side of Bible prophecy, which is the hope of the return of Christ. We also cover the dark side of prophecy. We talk about UFOs, we talk about the Nephilim, we talk about demonology. Now, that puts a lot of people off, and we've taken our share of criticism for covering some of those areas. But these are the curious hidden areas of Scripture that there are things in there that are there for a reason for us to pull out. And you look at the names of the speakers here. Virtually every speaker on this list is a headliner everywhere they go. And you go down all these names, like for example, L.A. Marzulli is one of my favorite people. And he's bringing a message to the conference this year that we're a little bit afraid to release. In fact, we still haven't released the subjects. In fact, you saw them today for the first time, and I kind of laughed listening to your reaction to every title as I read them out. It was kind of like, whoa, that sounds really interesting. And of course, it is really interesting. Talk a little bit about L.A. and the trail he's blazed.
L.A. Marzulli, an adventurer, a guy who does what I could never do, go out into wild country in search of documentation of biblical facts. And he brings back lots of hitherto unseen kinds of things. Of course, everybody has seen L.A. Marzulli's skull collection. I mean, he's been all over Christian broadcasting talking about the Nephilim. Bob, he's bringing something really amazing this time. We can't reveal what it is, but you will be shocked. I can say that, right?
Well, I actually saw this about 2 years ago for the first time, and it came in an email to me, and the email subject line said, "For your eyes only." So I immediately shared it with 2 or 3 close friends. Sorry, LA, don't tell anybody. But when I saw it, it was so shocking, and I thought to myself, people need to see this. Well, he has not had permission to show this publicly until here just recently. It's coming to our conference July 15th through 17th. It's going to be live streamed. And I can just tell you one thing. When it's shown on the screen for the first time, it's a new archaeological discovery.
Indeed.
Unlike anything we've ever seen. There's going to be a lot of oohs and ahs from the crowd.
Bob, you mentioned live streaming video. Let's stop for just a moment and explain to people what it is and how it works, because we're going to have full coverage live streaming video. Since the conference is sold out, that's basically the only way you can attend.
And you know, there's a lot of advantages to attending that way. You stop and think about the expenses. You know, airfare to a conference, hotel room, food while you're there, registration costs. It's expensive to travel these days. Live streaming is basically on-demand viewing. A lot of you have a DVR player at home. You record programs, you use your remote control to flip through the commercials. Well, live streaming is kind of similar to that. As long as you have access to the internet, you can actually stream the conference live and then watch the conference over the next 45 days anytime you want, which is a beautiful thing. So if you want to watch L.A. Marzulli's presentation on Friday night, you can watch Friday night. If you don't get home from work till midnight, you can turn it on at midnight, click the play button and watch it. And so live streaming is basically, you're there at the conference with 1,000 excited people. Just you're sitting in your family room and you didn't spend all the money to go to the conference.
And because it's going to be archived for 45 days. Now, I know last time the 2014 conference was archived for 30 days afterwards, so an additional 2 weeks. So for 6 weeks after the conference, you can go back and watch again. Or
every message, as many times as you want.
Yeah.
And it's HD television, by the way.
Oh, the picture is magnificent. You know, when you see this on your computer, you know, your laptop, your desktop, wherever you're watching, you just look at it, it is crystal clear. We've got the same people live streaming our conference that do a lot of events for the White House and the Kennedy Center. I mean, these people really have the technology down pat.
Well, talk about the packages then, because I know there are a few different options, because some of the, with that many speakers and that many presentations, there will be some overlap, will there not?
Well, we actually are streaming 2 rooms this year. It's the first time we've done this. So 2 sets of technicians, 2 sets of hotel rooms, everything expense-wise is doubled. And what we've done is we've offered package 1, which is the main ballroom, for $50 for 20 messages. And that's always the way we've done it in the past. This year we've added the second room, and so we've doubled the 20 messages to 40 messages. We've offered a discount when people purchase both rooms. For $79.95, you can watch all 40 messages that are being streamed from the entire conference. So, and this is really kind of funny, we didn't plan it this way. I'm kind of price sensitive to people because I know a lot of people are struggling out there. So you try to keep the prices as low as you can. But believe it or not, 98% of the people who have purchased the live streaming so far have purchased both rooms, which has just kind of shocked us and taught us a lesson that people are willing to pay for something really good.
Yeah, and the way this is set up with the 6-week archive afterward, you can invite friends over and have a prophecy watching party.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, L.A. Marzulli, of course, always attracts an awful lot of attention, and deservedly so, because he is one of the most dynamic speakers, and the information that he brings is, well, you just shared with us what he's going to be sharing, and it's literally, it is shocking. But then you've got fellows like Bill Salas, who again is a headliner, as it were, at conferences. Avi Lipkin. I know I'm on this list here, and we've got two other speakers here, Josh and Sharon here. We're just thrilled that our names are even on the same page as some of these folks that are speaking at the conference.
Bob, I was going to turn the tables on Derek and say we have an extra special speaker, Derek Gilbert, and I was going to have you mention your presentation.
Well, I kind of feel like Bob Euchre, you remember him, the old commercials? I'm just happy to be here. I got intrigued some time back when reading about the Exodus and the crossing of the Red Sea. And there's a line in there that I had never heard really expounded on in church, which is that God told Moses to turn back and camp at a place called Pi Hahiroth, opposite Baal Zephon. And say, okay, why did God tell them to turn back? And of course, my first thought was, can you imagine being the last guy in the column, and you're seeing the clouds of dust from the hundreds of Egyptian chariots getting closer and closer. Moses says, we got to turn around. What was happening there? And it occurred to me that maybe there was something worth digging into. And secondly why was Baal being worshipped in Egypt? Well, I did a little digging, and historians, archaeologists, they already knew these answers. It's just we don't actually bring it into the church setting. What was the theological point of crossing at that specific place? And so that kind of grown into what I'm talking about, which is, as with all the good ideas that I come up with, it's actually Sharon's idea. The title is The Great Inception, which is drawn from a science fiction movie from a few years ago, where technology's been developed to enter other people's dreams and implant thoughts and ideas, manipulate their reality. The enemy, Satan, has been manipulating our reality, humanity's reality, since Eden, and will continue to do so right up until Armageddon. It's basically a long psyop and trying to get people to act as though the lie is the truth. So we'll look at the concept of the holy mountains, some of the places where these conflicts have taken place, such as Babel, Mount Hermon, and of course the final conflict, which will take place at Mount Zion. So,
I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you talk about these secret Hebrew words in the Bible. I'm listening to you talk about something I've never heard about before, which sounds utterly fascinating. And I think, I have a name for our ministry. Sometimes we call it things you'll never hear in church. And this is what you're going to get at this conference. You're going to hear things from people that you've never heard before, and your reaction is going to be, wow, I've never heard that before, and I've never heard anyone talk about that. We have archaeology, we have politics, we have science, we've got time travel, we've got UFOs, we've got the Nephilim, we've got the Hebrew alphabet. I mean, we have all these mysteries and all these subjects that when you hear about them for the first time, you feel like you've entered a new universe because it's overwhelming. You
mentioned archaeology. We have Randall Price speaking, and if there ever was an expert on the Temple Mount and on the archaeological discoveries in Jerusalem, it's Randall Price. And by the way, all of this ties together with Bible prophecy very well, because discoveries are being made that link Jerusalem and Israel with Bible prophecy.
Absolutely, and that will be where the final confrontation takes place. We talk about Armageddon as, and I've always heard that the Armageddon refers to a battle at the Valley of Megiddo. But when you dig into the Greek and see how it was transliterated, the Hebrew was transliterated into the Greek, you realize, well, first of all, there's no mountain at Megiddo. It's a valley. It's the Valley of Megiddo. Yeah. But they're actually, the Hebrew term is actually Har Moed, which means the Mount of Assembly, the Mount of Congregation, which, of course, is Mount Zion. Mm-hmm. But the enemy has had mounts of congregation as well. And that will get into my presentation. But yes, I've also done some reading on the Third Temple, and so I'm really excited about the opportunity to talk to Dr. Price.
And one of Dr. Price's messages is ready to rebuild.
Exactly.
Plans for the rebuilding of the Jewish temple.
So yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. That's the great thing about this job. You know, I've told you gentlemen before that when I was a kid and all my normal friends were listening to music radio, I was listening to late night talk show hosts, because all I wanted to be when I grew up was a talk show host, because I get to talk to fascinating people who know things that I just find incredibly important.
Careful what you pray for. Talk about the newsmakers. I mean, this is one of the big part of the conference.
Big part of the conference. We have Bill and Claudia Koenig. Bill Koenig is a White House correspondent. He's a man at the heart of breaking news, and he has years of news experience. But Bob, he's also a very faithful, Bible-believing Christian, and he sees the news through the Christian filter. His wife, Claudia, speaks on sharing the gospel in a way that I've never heard before. In fact, relate an event that we observed, because Claudia Koenig, speaking on evangelism, actually makes it happen. We were at a restaurant with Claudia Koenig.
Some people talk the talk. Some people walk the walk. We're literally sitting in Pearl's restaurant in Oklahoma City with Bill and Claudia, and the waiter comes up to the table. Well, before you knew it, the waiter was being asked and peppered with a series of questions, and Claudia basically was luring this guy in. And before we left the table, 2 minutes later, he accepted Christ. At the table, this is our waiter, we made sure to give him a good tip. But it was amazing to watch her in action, because she has such a passion for the lost and the gospel. And she uses Bible prophecy to do it. She's going to be at our conference speaking about end-time evangelism. You know, WorldNet Daily with Joseph Farah, Watch.org with Bill Koenig. These are two of the first places I visit every day on the internet, because this is where you get prophetic news. This is where you get current events. We're going to have them at the conference.
Joseph Farah, and who has not followed WorldNet Daily? He has a unique perspective on discovering stories related to contemporary Christianity. And he has a nose for biblical prophecy like few men I've met. So I'm looking forward to seeing Joe Farah.
Speaking of a nose for biblical prophecy, we're sure not going to forget Tom Horn and Chris Putnam's new book.
Wow.
The Final Roman Emperor, the Islamic Antichrist, and the Last Crusade. Now, only Tom could come up with a book title like that.
Yeah.
But Chris is going to be speaking on the book at the conference. It's going to be live streamed into your home.
Yep. And of course, his other book, The Supernatural Worldview, is one that we recommend here for everyone's reference shelf, because he does an excellent job of documenting that the world of science is coming to accept the reality, the existence of the supernatural realm, while we in the Christian church, especially in the West, are de-supernaturalizing the Bible in our services on Sunday morning. It's all about the cross, Christ and Him crucified. We'll talk about why these topics are appropriate and relevant for us as Christians today when Skywatch TV continues right after this. You can host the biggest prophecy conference of 2016 in your living room. Of course, I'm talking about the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference, July 15th through the 17th. You can bring all 26 experts on the Bible, geopolitics, prophecy, and archaeology into your living room over the internet via live video stream. 40 presentations in all from speakers like L.A. Marzulli, Avi Lipkin, Chris Putnam, Stan Deyo, Dr. Randall Price, filmmaker Timothy Mahoney, best-selling author Joel Richardson, Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily, and many more. 40 in all in crystal clear HD video, and all presentations archived for 6 weeks after the conference. You can go back and watch again. Again, how about that? You can host the biggest conference of the year in your home. For information and to sign up, log on to prophecywatchers.com. Welcome back to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. Please remember to log on to skywatchtv.com for exclusive web-only content, including our daily news updates, our weekly looks at science through a Christian lens, Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck, Sci Friday with my best friend and wife, Sharon Gilbert, and of course, Skywatch Women, all of those, and also interviews that we can't fit into the network television schedule. You get those only at skywatchtv.com. We're talking with Bob Ulrich and Gary Stearman, our good friends from Prophecy Watchers, about the upcoming Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference, July 15th through 17th, a live stream available to bring 40 messages into your home over the span of the 2-day conference, and then archived for 6 weeks afterward. There are some who might look at these topics and say, well, you know, we've got UFOs in here. We've got Josh Peck, whose name I just mentioned, talking about quantum reality and extra-dimensional UFOs. Now, we know Josh is a little weird anyway, but why are topics like that, and say the cutting-edge work of L.A. Marzulli, why are topics like that appropriate and relevant for Christians today?
Well, he's in good company here with the author of Time Travelers of the Bible. So why don't you talk about that?
Well, that's the world in which we live, Derek. Earlier, we happened to mention in conversation the number of times that the word apocalypse is appearing today in book titles, movie titles, television programs. Everybody's preoccupied with the apocalypse. Well, that just happens to be the name of the last book in the Bible, the apocalypse. Well, we call it Revelation,
Mm-hmm.
but the Greek word apocalypse has caught on with the public. Now, what happens during the apocalypse? The natural law is suspended. The judgment of God falls on planet Earth. Subterranean chambers are opened, allowing creatures of unknown varieties to range across the world and torment mankind. Sounds like a sci-fi novel to me, but it's not science fiction. It's in the Bible, and I think we owe it to students of Bible prophecy to bring these subjects forward because it's high time.
Yes, and there are many in the pews on Sunday mornings who are fascinated by these topics, but sadly the church all too often doesn't address these issues, leaving the field open for the New Agers and the occultists to provide those answers that we in the church, we've got the definitive book on the supernatural realm.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there are people watching here for the first time today who have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. And all these subjects are foreign to them. Then you have Christians who are watching who have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. This is one of the reasons conferences like ours are so important. We're covering the subjects literally you're not going to hear in church. Now, I look at a guy like Ken Johnson. Ken is going to be teaching and doing the live stream on his new DVD, Enoch and the Prophecies of the Tribulation. You know, the apocryphal book of Enoch, which is not the canon of Scripture, but it's a pretty good historical book. The book opens by talking to people who wake up one day and find themselves in the tribulation. And so that's Ken's subject title, and he's a great Bible scholar.
To say the least, Ken Johnson, we call him the quiet man. You know, when you're around Ken, you do most of the talking. Ken is, what can I say, a true biblical scholar, understands the ancient languages, the implications, the symbols, the history. And when he studies, Derek. He gets down into the fine points, and yet when he stands up to deliver a speech, you listen. I guarantee you, I've participated when he's been speaking, and I'll tell you, you don't turn away. You're waiting for the next word from Ken.
No, his messages are not, there's no filler. It's all content.
That's
it's
right.
all meat.
That's right.
One of the most exciting presentations in 2014 was Stan Deo's presentation on the location of Eden, which of course was the original holy mountain. What, if you had to speculate, might Stan do to top that presentation this summer?
You know, I'm sitting here before you spoke, and I'm thinking, I've got to talk about Stan Deo's message. No lie. Because Gary and I have talked about it. You know, Stan uses Google Earth, and he found the tributaries into Eden, and he had a great presentation on it. He poured his heart and soul into that presentation.
Yes, he did.
He had a special musical score made, and he called me here a few months ago, and he was a little bit tepid. I was kind of surprised because it's not his nature. And he says, Bob, I don't know what I'm going to speak about. What do I have to say? I don't know what to say. And I said, Stan, just bring whatever the Lord gives you. I mean, I know you're going to bring something great. Called me back about a month or two later, and he was like almost coming through the phone. He says, you're not going to believe what I found. You're not going to believe. I went back to Google Earth and I discovered, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if I mention the name, everyone would know it. So, you know, technology can be a wonderful thing. The world is opening up, the eye in the sky. He's going to bring a great message that's going to stagger people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to follow that up with Aaron Lipkin. Because Aaron Lipkin, Avi Lipkin's son, both Aaron and Avi live in Jerusalem. And he has been shooting, he has a drone, a personal drone with a GoPro camera. And he's been taking that drone to places that you don't go anymore. Dangerous places, some Palestinian territories. And I like to call his presentation Drones Over Jerusalem. But he's discovered something that you need to talk about.
In conjunction with a well-known archaeologist, the late Adam Zertal, he has discovered the way the Israelites entered the Promised Land under Joshua's leadership. They crossed the Jordan, and a place called Gilgal is mentioned, and the 12 stones placed as a memorial, if you recall the Bible story. Well, guess what? Those 12 stones are much, much more than you think they are. And Adam Zertal proposed that we have now found them. And there are places that you can actually visit today. And when we were in Israel, we had the privilege of standing in one of these places, which are the actual encampments of Joshua and his army. And it brings tears to your eyes. It raises the hair on the back of your neck. And Aaron Lipkin is going to be talking about Gilgal and about the amazing footprints, Bob.
We stood in those footprints. We
did.
were there on the site, the place where the Israelites were thousands of years ago.
That's right.
You know, Tim Mahoney, a lot of you may have seen his movie Patterns of Evidence. Actually in the theater, I saw it in the theater for the first time. Then we had Tim come down to the studio and shoot some programs with us. But Tim has discovered a completely new timeline for the Exodus that has like interlocking puzzle pieces. The Egyptologists have all been wrong by hundreds of years. Tim fixed the timeline, and all of a sudden, it's like interlocking pieces snapping into place. And Tim has got a fascinating message he's going to bring us. So one after another, you go through these names and these headliners and these exciting messages, and you just realize this is going to be a special event.
And again, as I observed 2 years ago, that these messages all, without even intentionally, I think, being designed this way, tend to overlap and interlock. Because I know I've seen the film as well, also had the opportunity to talk to Tim Mahoney, and some of his work has helped inspire what I'm working on. And it all comes together. It's a tapestry. And
It really
ultimately,
is.
again, points back to Christ and Him crucified. The supernatural realm is real. The enemy is real.
That's right.
But Christ has already won the battle, and we're just waiting for His soon return.
And I'd like to say something if I have time. You used the phrase soon return. I think now, as never before in my lifetime, there's a real excitement about the soon return of Christ. And people are saying things like, you know, there may not be enough time for us to put this conference together. We don't know, but the atmosphere is such that people feel the time could be very, very short, and this conference is going to be presented in that light.
It is an exciting event, and we are looking forward to it. Bob, Gary, I'm just thrilled and honored to even be a part of it. So, and we certainly look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. And if you can't be there, please take advantage of the live streaming option. It is a wonderful opportunity to hear some cutting-edge messages you won't hear anywhere else, archived for 6 weeks after the conference, July 15th through the 17th. And for more information and to sign up, log on to prophecywatchers.com.
Amen. That's all. All the information's on the site.
And we thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is Skywatch TV.